Like most cultures, the Babylonians of Mesopotamia had their own creation myth. Believed to be written sometime between 1900 and 1500 BCE, with many linking it to the rule of King Hammurabi, the creation myth is compiled in the writings of the Enuma Elish. Although there is some disagreement concerning the dating and authenticity of all the text, one thing is rather certain. The Babylonians' creation myth, like their culture, was full of violence and the fight for power. As we go over this creation myth, the characters and the names can get a bit confusing, so we'll just focus on the main players. While doing this, there are two themes to remember which give us a glimpse into the Babylonian life. First, Marduk was the Babylonian supreme god. Second, humans were created to serve Marduk and the other lesser gods. Now, on to the myth. In the beginning there was water. No mountains, no meadows, no firm ground, just water. Within these waters, there were gods who sort of existed together as one. Eventually, two of these gods, Apsu and Tiamat, came together and produced offspring. Like most kids do, Apsu and Tiamat's offspring started getting pretty noisy, and this made it hard for Apsu, the dad-father, to get his sleep. Becoming impatient and maybe grouchy from lack of sleep, Apsu went to Tiamat and suggested they kill their unruly children. Not surprisingly, Tiamat, playing the mom figure, got pretty angry with this murderous suggestion and put the kibosh on her husband's plans. However, really missing his sleep, Apsu decided to kill the kids anyway. Unfortunately for Apsu, some of the young gods became privy to his plans before he could carry them out. Although some were frightened into silence, all were not so easily intimidated. When Ea, one of the noisy offspring, heard of Apsu's plan, he decided to hatch his own murderous coup. Turning from prey to predator, Ea struck first. He murdered Apsu and took his crown. With this, we come to the most supreme of all Babylonian gods, for it was here that Ea fathered Marduk, the four-eared, four-eyed god. It was Marduk who would save his father Ea from the consequences of killing Apsu. Now, back to our tale of treachery and murder. When Tiamat's husband was killed by Ea, she and the other gods retaliated in anger. Enraged, she granted magical powers to another god named Kingu, and sent him, along with a host of monsters and dragons, to avenge her husband's death. Knowing this force was coming for him, Ea turned to his son Marduk for help. Marduk was happy to defend his father, but he required payment of sorts for his service. When he defeated Tiamat and her army of creatures, he wanted supreme reign over all the other gods. Greatly fearing the armies of Tiamat, Ea agreed to Marduk's terms. Fanned on by his chance for ultimate power, Marduk went to battle. When he finally faced his adversary, he used his powers to conjure up a devastating tempest. As thunder and lightning rolled, Tiamat's armies were sent into confusion. With this, only Tiamat herself stood to face Marduk. In a scene that'd be great on the big screen, Tiamat and Marduk began their fight. Trading the advantage back and forth, Marduk was eventually able to capture his adversary in his nets. However, when he came too close to his prey, the entangled Tiamat opened her mouth and actually tried to eat him. However, this proved her undoing, as Marduk used his powers to his ultimate advantage. Seeing her huge mouth open and moving in for the kill, Marduk filled it with wind. With her mouth full and forced open by his gusts, Marduk shot an arrow down her throat and right to her heart. With this, the mighty Tiamat was vanquished, and Marduk was ready to take his place as the supreme god. Upon killing Tiamat, Marduk took her body and cut it in two. Choosing to create the sky out of one half, he created the land with the other, complete with vegetation and even some animals. To his creation, he added stars and a moon. He also fashioned the Tigris and Euphrates rivers from Tiamat's eyes. In order to care for his new creation, Marduk condemned those who had sided with Tiamat to be its steward. These lesser gods were forced to farm the lands and tend to its keeping. Obviously, being gods had not prepared them for such menial work, and soon they all started to complain quite loudly. When complaint turned to rebellion, Marduk knew he needed to take action. In order to pacify the rebelling lesser gods, Marduk took Kingu, remember the god that led Tiamat's forces, and killed him. With the blood of Kingu, Marduk mixed clay. Then, for good measure, he added spit from the other gods. From this mixture, he created workers for the earth. Yes, you probably guessed it. From this rather disgusting recipe came humans. With this less than spectacular start, humans were given the task of caring for the earth. Of course, they were also forever relegated to a position of submission and subservience to the gods and their whims, the greatest of whom was Marduk himself. Linked to the years of King Hammurabi, Babylon's creation myth mirrors the culture of its civilization. Starring Marduk, Babylon's supreme deity, the myth is full of violence and the fight for power. Compiled in the Enuma Elish, the myth gets going with the gods Apsu and Tiamat coming together to create offspring. As these offspring get noisy, Apsu decides it's time to get rid of them. What follows is a tale of brutality which mimics the Babylonian belief that humans were created to serve the gods, the chief of whom was Marduk. When Apsu is killed by Marduk's father and Tiamat is enraged, Marduk steps up to battle. Defeating Tiamat, he splits her body in two, creating the land and the sky. Claiming supremacy over all other gods, Marduk consigns Tiamat's followers to work the newly formed earth. Not willing to do such menial work, the gods begin to rebel. Upon this rebellion, Marduk pacifies the lesser gods by creating the human race as mere servants for the gods and their whims.